I hate to do this to everybody, but Halloween is over, and apparently we're skipping Thanksgiving this year. So this story is called "O Tannenbaum," an Appalachian Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah.
I remember how I couldn't do anything about it. The truck was turning round and round across the icy Appalachian road, finally settling with a clunk into a snow-filled ditch, lights pointing slightly skyward as if prepared for takeoff. This is the worst Christmas ever, I thought. The blue and red flashing lights of the police cruiser setting the night aglow, but not with holiday cheer. Dad was slumped over in the passenger seat, my dog licking his still sullen face, a thermos emptying its contents onto the floorboards. Even before hearing the officer yell, "Put your hands on your head now!" with the normal drawl replaced by intensity, I was already pushing my way too big Santa hat off, its jingle bells soon to be replaced by the clink, clink, clink of shiny new handcuffs. Merry Christmas indeed. As the officer walked me toward the cruiser, I could see where the Christmas tree had struck it after ejecting itself from the pickup truck bed, pieces of garland still embedded in the cruiser's grill. Turning his head towards his shoulder-mounted radio, he called for an ambulance for my dad before turning back to me and saying, "Would have been a whole lot easier if you hadn't tried running. What'd you do to that old man anyway?" I thought about replying, but couldn't. Not because I didn't want to incriminate myself, it was too late for that, but because I just wasn't able to wrap my head around how I'd even gotten here. Police chase, flying Christmas tree, dead father. How do you explain that? My mind raced trying to make sense of it all before locking in on the memory of the first time Dad took me along to pick out a Christmas tree. I must have been about 7 years old when he stumbled into my room smelling full of holiday cheer and humming "O Tannenbaum." "All right, Timmy," Dad said, his blue-collar drawl even more pronounced when he was drunk. "We got most important job of the holiday, picking out just the right Christmas tree." For most kids, picking out a Christmas tree was already a tiresome ordeal by age 7, the novelty worn off. Not for me, however. This was an important tradition in our family, and it took this long before I could be trusted to participate, or so said Dad. Mom just nodded and agreed. And I knew it must be important if it meant Dad taking a break from his other favorite holiday tradition, setting down to his cocktail of a shot of Jameson chased with a beer. Well, maybe that was really more of an everyday tradition. Strapping on our snow boots and jackets, mittens and toques, Dad grabbed his two-man crosscut saw and off we headed in his old blue Ford pickup, my hound dog Rascal excitedly pacing around in the truck bed. Pulling away from the drive, I had a grand idea that we'd go to one of those U-cut places with a log fire burning, the smell of roasting nuts in the air, and hot cider being passed around. Of course, that dream evaporated as soon as Dad opened his mouth. "We're going out the backside of Schooley's farm, boy. There's some good fir tree back there," Dad said, taking sips of Irish coffee out of his red plaid thermos. "Last year, old Schooley was out there in the deer blind, almost filled me full of some buckshot. Had to make a run for it, and I lost a glove. Must have been too close to dusk. This late, though, he'll be back in the farmhouse. All the deer are all asleep, so we'll be all right." The thought about smarting the Schoolies seemed good to me, even better than some hot cider, and I let Dad know it. "Mike and James are always giving me trouble at school. They think they're so smart, but I don't let it bother me much," I said. "I can't wait to hear them complaining about another one of their trees missing this year. I heard talk about you last year, but I didn't know it was you till just now. They even brought in your glove to see if it belonged to somebody at school." And that was about the sum of it back then, beating the Schoolies at the Christmas tree game. They had a few 100-acre Christmas trees growing, so it wasn't really much theft. so much as it was just thinning out the undergrowth. We didn't need a big tree, so that's just how we justified it. By the time I was 13, I was in charge of driving the Ford out to the farm. Then, by 16, it was pretty much up to me to fell the tree and drag it back to the truck. Dad's diabetes took his foot, eyesight, and most of his strength. Still, there he'd sit in the passenger seat, a much older looking rascal on his lap, that dirty old thermos still in his hand. That was the last year with Mom. Sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, she'd say, dealing with Dad's drinking and his slow motion suicide. She left us in the spring, taking anything of any sentimental value along with her. There wasn't much of any other sort of value in our house anyhow. "Your mother's gone," Dad said, barely sitting up from the lazy boy recliner, as if she'd just run out for some milk. "Get me a beer out of the fridge and my insulin shot." She didn't go far, though, just the next town over, moved in with a local bank teller named Phil. "Timothy, Phil thinks you remind him too much of your dad. Probably best you just take care of him. Won't be long anyhow. Instead of coming to visit," Mom said to me. That was the first and the last time I spoke to her after she left us. That next winter at 17, Dad made a special point about which Christmas tree we're going to pick for the house this year. "Tim, it's time for the tree," he started, wheezing a little as he put out another cigarette. "Your mother took all the decorations. She took my heart, and she broke a promise. She's not been very good this year, and Santa's got her on his naughty list." "Dad, Santa's not real." "Look here, Timmy, Santa may not be real, but sure as hell you and I are. All these years, we've been doing a little part of Santa's job, taking trees out of those smarty-pants schoolies' farm. Think they better than everyone else, looking down they nose at me and you. They were on the naughty list too, and we're collecting retribution. Well, this year, it's your mother and that Richie Rich Phil's turn. Our decorations are on that tree they got there in the front yard of their house, and we're taking them back." "Are you kidding? Do I look like I'm kidding? No, I ain't fucking kidding. We're going over there tonight. We're going over there with the truck and the dog and my saw that's all sharpened up. We're gonna let that woman know she's on my naughty list." Dad's voice grew dark, but I let it in because I was feeling just as hurt and lonely. After a few beers for courage, we pulled up to Phil's house about 1:30 a.m. There she stood, that tree in all God's glory, about 5 feet tall and about 10 feet from the front door, ringed with multicolored lights, garland, and the shiny ornaments of my youth. For the first time in years, Dad took the saw to the tree before I could even grab hold of the other end. The trunk was several inches thick, but his sharpened cross-cut teeth, biting the wood in long, smooth strokes, brought down that tree within 2 minutes of his feverish sawing. "Timber!" he yelled, as if he'd forgotten we weren't out in the back 40. A motion light popped on as I dragged the tree across the snow and hoisted it onto the truck, a trail of dislodged ornaments left in the wake. I thought I saw the neighbor's light flick on, but the silence of the truck cab distracted me. When we'd taken a tree from the schoolies, there was always a deep, hearty laugh filling the truck. Not this time. I glanced over at Dad. He was white as a sheet, with just a faint breath coming from his mouth, his eyes a little glossier than normal. Rascal started licking his face, something Dad normally hated, but he didn't even try pushing him away now. "Go," Dad breathed the word out, just barely audible to me. The rear tire spun a bit on the slick road before finding traction. The shine for picking out Christmas trees had finally worn off for me too as I tried to get Dad home. Back to his recliner, back to his whiskey and beer, back to normal. We hadn't made it a block before hearing the whoop whoop of a police car. "Go," Dad said again, this time with slightly more conviction. "Never trust the cops. They're a bunch of thugs that betrayed their own class, Dad would say. Now, though, the cops were the choice between getting Dad to the hospital and possibly arrested, or else reclaiming this little piece of ourselves that Mom took when she left. "What should I do, Dad?" I asked. "Go," he said one final time. I floored it. The rear-wheel drive pickup immediately breaking loose on the ice, sending us spinning out of control, setting the kidnapped Christmas tree free, and taking my childhood along with it. Thanks.